I'm still eating chocolate cake.
Great. We literally just started to that.
Sorry.
We're back, everybody. Helena has cake, and she's not sharing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not sharing, so everyone
Send
can
us
be
some
jealous
cake.
of my chocolate cake.
Yeah, send us some cake, Helena.
No.
Oh.
Alright. So. Yes, you are summoned to a location in the Imperial District. Do any of you want to get anything fancy before you go?
My clothes are fancy as is. I've got new clothes.
I mean, you have got new clothes. Yes, this could be your first time in your new outfit. Although you won't quite have the hair yet.
It's turning slowly.
Yeah, I like to think there's like a few like yellowish leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Vondal's just putting on his fancy religious shit and is also making a special effort to look after his beard.
I mean, I guess I do have fancy clothes.
Oh yeah, we have the clothes from Hatcher's
What?
Cross.
Did we?
Yes.
No,
way
they
back
were.
when.
No, we got new fancy clothes.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. You don't.
Yeah.
You were loaned the clothes at Hatcher's Cross. Yeah,
Oh.
you got some different ones.
Okay, well I have some.
I forget
sort of
when we
fancy
got
clothes.
those.
Yeah, I can't remember when you got them either.
When did we get
Oh.
those?
At some point.
I lose track.
Who fucking
When
cares?
did we get that?
I don't know.
I remember you going and buying them. Oh,
Yes.
you bought them in Rock's Gate. Rock's Gate.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it was to the yeah. to
They were
the-
attending the thing.
Right.
Yeah. we had clothes
Oh,
for that.
right.
I remember now.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess I'll wear those.
Cool. Yeah, you get dressed up to a degree.
We dress up as much as we can.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay, so
So this weird fish thing can look over us now.
weird fish thing.
It looks like a weird fish.
I've
Yeah, like a weird.
no.
Looks like a weird anglerfish thing.
I don't actually know what that is.
I mean, neither. That's why it looks like an anglerfish.
I have no idea. I think it might be the artist's signature. I don't know.
That's a beautiful signature.
So, you head into the Imperial District, to the location where you are summoned. This music has too much suspense. It's not
This
not
movie.
this is not thematic enough. What about this one? It's really good. Yeah, this one's better. Okay. Oh yes, this is World of Warcraft. So, yeah, you basically arrive at what is essentially a large manor house, where you are greeted by basically a number of guards accompanying a servant who asks to see your invitations. And when you present your invitations, he is immediately very courteous and greets you all and says, "Please come with me. The rest of your companions are already inside getting prepared."
Okay.
I just thought about Lyra.
Surely,
I
surely
imagine-
Lyra's not to stay with us.
I imagine I gave her a good little brush.
Yeah,
Make sure her fur's all shiny.
it took a lot of convincing.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, does Lyra like having fur brushed?
Probably not.
Like,
No.
But still, she got.
I mean, Lyra is the daughter of a deity who shuns society and civilization as a whole.
Yep.
So,
yeah, but look, Danny rubs.
That's
yes.
not being civilized. I guess.
Belly rubs are not civilized. Luke
Yes.
is 17.
Yeah, belly rubs are-
That is also her mortal flaw.
Oh my god.
Craving for belly rubs.
Your belly
So,
rub.
Whoa.
this apparently has a second part to the track that is like suitably also epic, which is really not fitting and is actually kind of annoying. Cool. Well, we'll make do. So, yeah, you guys are led inside to a large, I guess it would be like drawing room almost, that has been set up to sort of be like a waiting room for you guys to walk into the ceremony. And you are there, like, probably... Actually, no, probably your companions are already there when you get in. And, yeah, within a few moments of arriving, you are piled upon by a number of servants who immediately start... They immediately decide that you're all not good enough. So you need to, like, they are doing... sorting your clothes out, straightening what they can, doing hair, makeup, everything. Even for the gentlemen.
Do not touch my beard. It's already been done. The beard has been done. Leave it alone.
But being elves, they're sort of looking at your beard and they're just like, "Ah, what do beards?"
The beard has been done. Leave the beard. Leave it alone.
They stare with a great deal of dislike at your beard.
It's magnificent. Leave it alone.
You look at the rest of your companions to notice that Zale is basically wearing... it's almost like a tux, but not quite.
Does he have coattails?
Yes.
He does have coattails, yes.
Nice.
Now he's got two tails.
Well, technically 3, because a coattails is a fork.
Yeah, so he's got 3 tails on now.
But yeah, like he is very, very smartly, sharply dressed. Simone is there in a way that you have never seen Simone look before. She is completely make-upped up and is wearing what is quite like a flowing blue dress that has got like it's not too fancy, but it's got like a lot of like detailing and things on it, and it's got like these long sleeves that hang down, and like a pair of like blue fabric shoes that go with the dress, and Ilaran is not here yet.
I'm sure he's looking very fancy.
The other person you see here is Lysatis, who,
Oh my god.
in a way that you did not know a woman that old could look, she is. She basically has a sleeveless.
Not super old.
She's
It's not super old.
very old compared to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but she's like 30 something.
No, but this is like looking at your mom and going, "Wow, she's actually kind of hot."
Oh.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Odd way of putting that.
She's wearing a dress that completely reveals her arms and her back, and it is very form-fitting.
Wow.
And she pulls it off really well, but when she sees you guys, she does look a little bit awkward about how it is.
Aw.
And yeah, she basically says, "I didn't know what to wear, and this is all that they had." But she looks knockout in it.
Before it's just like, oh, it looks so pretty.
Yeah.
I feel it's also important to mention because I've forgotten like a purpose I had on our first journey to the capital. I'm telling them to not touch my beard in Elvish.
Yes.
Freak out more elves by by being a dwarf that speaks Elvish.
The elves here don't seem like perturbed by you in any way. They seem to have been briefed as to who you are and what you are, so
They were prepared.
I tried.
they were prepared for you.
Still.
It's gonna.
Uh,
Yeah. So you
The elves
finish.
know how to do my hair that has leaves in it that are gonna start shedding soon.
They are very skilled, so I would say yes.
V's probably the only one who's enjoying this process, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Getting all made up and done.
Vondal's just like, I've been done already. I did it myself. Fuck off.
Arya has probably never worn makeup in her life, so she's very confused.
Well, technically, you've got word.
That's not.
Oh, they
Makeup.
Makeup.
they wipe that off, and they, using paint and powder, actually manage to conceal the stains.
No! How could they?
No word.
Load.
My
God,
word.
I mean, it's
word.
as soon as you wash your face, the stain will be there again. But they've done a very good job with the concealer.
I don't know who I am without my woad.
The Goliath won't compliment your woad anymore. 'Cause I
I
can't
know.
No.
I would be surprised if there were any Goliaths here.
see it. You never know, Ferrous. You
Yeah,
never
never
know.
Well, I do because I wrote the scene.
Yeah.
Sassy.
Damn it. Foiled again.
Logic.
Yeah. So. What was I saying? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So. After a short while, you are all prepared, and as you are sort of getting ready to like people are saying like, right, okay, the ceremony is going to be in a few moments. A man walks into the room, unfurls a scroll, and announces to the room, presenting His Majesty
Yes.
Oh my
Elaran
It's
Ifelkir.
gonna work. Oh,
Yes.
Fucking
Felkir.
To at which point Elaran walks into the room like completely red-faced, like don't
Aw.
introduce me like that, and he is wearing a set of golden armor,
Jesus.
Holy shit.
which looks like it doesn't fit him fantastically well, almost like he hasn't worn it for a very long time. But no, he is presented to the room, and all of the staff like sort of do a bow or curtsy to him as he enters, and he looks incredibly embarrassed. From behind all of you, there is a slow clap.
Oh.
Please tell me that's
That's Simone.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I love my girl.
Nice.
Get it, girl.
Wow.
Who looks desperately like she's trying not to laugh.
Aww.
Elaran hates every second of this.
I was gonna say, can Vondal actually chuckle?
Yes.
Yay.
Aw. My poor
Um,
son.
I know.
He looks like so fantastically, unbelievably uncomfortable.
God
Poor
bless.
kid.
I
And
mean, that's what happens when you're a prince.
yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I guess I'd play this track because this track is like kind of calm.
Yeah, actually,
for the next bit.
Vondal's in a good mood. So can I just like sort of mock bow and just go, Your Majesty?
He's gonna smack you.
Banter.
Oh
Gotta do
dear.
it for the banter.
He is gonna be so angry at you. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be great. Worth it.
Yeah,
Well,
like
just mad because you couldn't scare the elves by speaking Elvish.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm making up for it.
I think Elrond just like sort of like half sort of like furiously just sort of looks at you and just goes, "Please don't."
Poor baby.
Oh, Elrond.
He just wants to be a ranger.
He does. And he's a damn good one.
He left home because he hates this.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yes, after a few moments, one of the serving staff comes through and takes you all and leads you into the chamber through the doors that have been sort of like left closed since you arrived, into a large white marble hall, where basically there are basically like a number of very finely dressed elves sitting like in like rows of seats. There's quite a lot of seats put out, but there's not actually a lot of people there. Of the people who are there, a lot of them seem to be perhaps people who are friends and family, perhaps, of the Ifelkirs. Helena is there in the front row, sort of like looking back as you walk into the room. You walk forward in this marble hall until there are basically 8 seats placed in like a not quite a semicircle, but like a small arc, in front of 4 very large, very tall thrones. Oh yeah, sorry. Actually, that's the correction. There are 4 very large thrones and 1 slightly smaller throne. I forgot about the 5th. And as the servants bid you be seated, and a few moments after you sit in the chairs, another servant comes out with a scroll of paper, and announces to the room, "All rise for the venerable princes, my Lord Exarchs, the Grand Archmagus, and the Master." The Grand Archmagus, the High
Titles.
Grand
Titles.
Archmagus, the High Archdruid, and the I can't remember who is currently in the seat for the religious order. It's the High Priest of Sahanin, and the High Priestess of Sahanin is the 5th name he reads out. Coming out of the doors, you recognise Exarch Ivelios Ifelkir, who you've met. You see a similarly dressed, much shorter man in who is a wood elf. The 3rd member you see is a moon elf who Arya you immediately recognise as the Lord Exarch of the Moon Elves, who he's the person that you're subspecies of elf like venerate in the council. A person who is dressed in sort of long flowing brown robes and has like a stag antler crown, who you assume is the High Archdruid, and a woman in Priestess of Sahanine robes comes out. They all sit. The Exarchs and the High Druid sit in the thrones. The Priestess sits in the smaller throne, and then a man who some of you, all of you recognise as one of the people who first you spoke to with Lady Elenia when the first time you used the teleport circle, who presumably is the Grand Archmagus. He comes out and he does not take a seat, but instead he has a cushion on which are mounted 8 medals, and he bows before the Exarchs and council members once they're seated, before letting go of the cushion. And you expect it to fall, but it lands on something that you can't see, which you imagine is some sort of invisible servant or something like that. That he conjures, and it rests in front of the Exarchs. And he exits sort of like stage left and goes off out of the scene. At which point, Exarch Ifelkir stands up and says, ladies and gentlemen of all houses, esteemed guests, we are here today to recognise the heroics and bravery of these 8 individuals. As is the time-honoured tradition of those who serve the Elven Kingdoms, they are to be presented with the Medal of Utmost Bravery and all of the honours and titles that go with it. He then proceeds to recite a long and honestly quite boring speech in Elvish that tells sort of like long ago in our forefathers' time there were those who stood for what is just and right and blah blah blah, and this goes on and is quite lengthy and sort of like very sort of this is a very important medal. Take this honor with all of the gravity that is bestowed upon it. And
Vondal listens intently.
Yeah, like if you're interested in history, like it's quite a prestigious award that you're being given. Once he finishes, the Exarch of the Wood Elves stands up and in common addresses everyone and says, it has been decided that on this, and then he gives the date.
Oh my god, are we getting a holiday?
No.
Aww.
Shut up.
No, he stands up and says it is known that on this date, these 8 individuals, and then he lists you all by name, are bestowed upon this medal and therefore are considered noble citizens of this realm. I guess everybody give me a history check except for Arya, who you know what this means.
Rip Vondal.
For fuck's
Yeah.
sake.
Vondal.
Okay.
I'm the one who's best at history.
So, literally none of you except Arya know this.
Hi.
What?
Even with a 15.
Hi.
Arya, basically he goes into like a little bit more detail of like what it like what your title sort of like actually is, but basically you are now you're now basically considered like sort of the same social rank as like the elven aristocracy, basically.
Shit.
Like you are like you're just by holding this award, your opinion alone is worth weight in things like courtrooms, like debate hearings and things. Like you are like you can show up to a like a government debate, and as long as you sort of like say beforehand that you're going to show up, you can have an opinion in a government debate.
Sounds
You don't
like a bad idea to give to V.
you don't get any decision in the actual lawmaking, but the government is like obliged to listen to what it is that you have to say. You're considered like you're considered worthy enough to like have a say in how decision making is done. So yeah, this is a huge deal, basically.
They just gave it to a dwarf.
Yeah. So yeah, this continues on. Then the Moon Elf man stands up. The Exarch of the Moon Elves stands up, and he gives a speech in Sylvan,
Yay!
which only some of you can understand. And in fact, from the appearance, if you look around, from the appearance of most of the audience, only about 4 or 5 people in the audience can understand this as well. But for those of you who speak Sylvan, he goes on to talk about how the privilege that this this award gives you is recognized in honor of your service, and like the phrase he says is something along the lines of may no mortal ever take the may no mortal ever presume to take this honor from you, which it's a weird sentence in Sylvan, but it basically means that may nobody who is may nobody who is of lower status than you presume to overrule the importance of this decision, sort of thing. Which it's a good thing Kelariis can't understand that, because she would kind of be like, okay, maybe.
What's going on half the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the high elf was saying either.
No.
Right?
Kelariis doesn't know anything.
Kelariis has understood
fine.
a third of this speech.
No. Yeah, no, it's kind of difficult to understand a lot of what was being said in this service unless you speak all of these languages.
Literally, only I can understand it.
Yes.
I understood 2/3. Understands 1/3.
Yeah. The priestess then stands up. Fortunately, she doesn't say have a huge speech. She just says, "May the blessings of Sahanin rest upon you and all of your families." And then sits back down. Everyone sort of like looks to see if the druid stands up. The druid does not stand up.
Great.
And then Exarch stands back up again, takes the first medal from the cushion, and approaches basically from right to left and hands you your medals. And as he approaches each of you, he says something in a low whisper to every single one of you.
Oh.
Oh.
So
Secret message.
yes.
Wait, is it in common? Do I understand?
Oh yeah, you know he only he speaks only to you in common because he knows you guys don't understand.
I do.
Oh yeah, no.
Edgy and lip read every single one of them.
Give me.
Just lip read.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I suppose he's not trying to conceal it in any way, so I guess you can. So I will paste you the things after I've pasted them to everyone else.
That's funny.
Now I can see what he says
That's
to
amazing.
Illiran. That's gonna be an interesting one.
Oh, I want to sorry to know that.
Oh, okay. I haven't actually written those, so
Oh,
that'll be.
good.
I'll have to make that up.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't want to do it now, then you can do it like post session.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Still.
I assume it's gonna be something like for a dwarf.
Yeah,
pretty
you're a
good.
fucking
Not bad for a dwarf.
To be fair, he kind of has.
Aww. Exarch Y. Don't be racist.
Oh god.
Oh, okay.
So do I still have to give you that perception chip, Rob?
No, I don't actually think you need to make one because your passive perception is high enough that it beats his passive stealth, inverted commas. Because he's not trying very hard.
Yeah, okay.
God, I hope no one in the audience can lip read.
I mean, who cares, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's not saying anything.
I mean, like these are just supposed to be personal messages. They're not
Yeah.
secrets. Except for when he speaks to you, Arya, he speaks in Sylvan because he
Oh.
presumes that nobody else can understand you. Understand
which
it.
is a lie, but...
Yeah, presumes. Even though there's a half-dried in the room.
Hello.
Yeah, but he also doesn't know that V is capable of lip reading.
That's a good point.
Oh, what he says to me is kind of sweet.
Oh. Interesting. Okay. I wondered how you'd work that in, and now I understand.
Yes. Suffice it to say, he was curious, so he did some research.
Oh, it's gonna be interesting.
Alright, Rob,
Yeah.
give me all that sweet deeds.
Okay,
Yes,
I
we
will. I'll copy and paste it to you in Discord because it'll be
Oh.
quicker.
Just, oh my god.
Oh, ignore the horrible formatting in Discord because it's done using indents in my document.
Rip.
I love how he just like creeped on my background. The hell? You haven't unlocked
shit.
me yet.
Clearly he has.
He's an exarch. The things he knows.
That's true.
Don't know shit about me.
I mean, I guess they aren't anything special, so.
No, like he literally just went. He looked up your last name and was
Yep.
like, "Oh, okay."
No.
I mean, you.
What he says to me starts out okay, and then it's like, wow, really, dude? Just that second sentence is just wow. Wow.
Well,
I'm sure it's like, fuck
he-
you, dwarf.
he means it in the sense that maybe we are wrong about you.
Okay.
Because he's saying there are things that are more unusual than a selfless dwarf.
Such as.
Because
I'm
previously he would have thought that the rarest thing in the world is a selfless dwarf. Now he's saying perhaps that is not quite so rare.
Okay, fair enough. Still.
It is. He is calling upon centuries of racism, but
Exactly.
he's saying it in a way that he is perhaps changing his mind.
Hooray!
Maybe not so racist anymore.
So-
Not so racist.
Do you say anything in the moment, Arya?
No.
Hold on. Fucking aggro.
Okay, so like yeah, if you don't respond to it, like you guess you can respond to him later, but
I mean,
That is really interesting what he said to
I mean, I
Arya.
guess I say like, thank you.
okay. Yeah, he just
I mean, Arya's kind of shocked that they're here. So
yeah he nods and like that seems to be the end of it for now. But yeah,
does he want to know the stories? Is that what he's getting at?
no, he is satisfied, but he's saying that the second part sort of he was happy to have that happen. He's sure that the same thing would be appreciated in return.
I see. Okay. I mean, yes and no.
That's up for you and them to decide. He doesn't care about
Yeah.
that.
I'm sure he doesn't give a shit.
Oh, here we go.
But anyway, yes. So after giving out all of the medals and saying everything, he makes a gesture with his hands and it's sort of a everybody stand up. So like everybody, you all presumably all stand, and he sort of talks, speaking to you. He says, "Turn and face those you may now call peers," inviting you to turn around to the audience.
Okay.
You turn around to the audience, and then he addresses the audience. He says, show appreciation to those who have done much for you, and there is a round of applause.
Hey,
Oh shit.
we're fucking heroes, baby.
Yeah. Hang on. I've got a thing I need to find. Not quite.
Damn it!
Close?
I forgot what it's called. No.
Oh, damn it! All the victory
Oops.
themes I know in my head now.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, right. Hold on.
Oh god. Okay.
Oh shit.
Wow.
How could I not?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Bum ba-da, bum ba-da-bum, bum.
Is this when we walk dramatically?
Yes.
I can't believe
When
it.
we walk dramatically away.
Yep.
Yeah. Da-da-da. Yeah. You walk back out of the hall.
Huzzah!
You should have played the music when they crowned the people in the Chronicles of Narnia.
Ah.
God, yeah.
Uh,
Also, crown the people.
The kings
Crown
and queens.
Pevensies.
The Pevensies.
Pevensies.
So yeah, you make your way out of the hall to applause.
Right.
He probably finds this really weird.
Yeah.
Kind of awkward.
As you get to the back door, two servants come out and they place laurel wreaths on all of you,
Oh, there's the flower crown.
and you are
Flowers.
given the opportunity to take a bow to the audience before you depart.
uh,
I'm good, actually.
Okay.
If nobody else, I mean, is there like a queue for it? I mean, we would if there's like a queue.
Well, like you all sort of line up so that they can put laurels on you, and then it's like turn around, bow to the audience, and then walk out.
Okay, I guess I give like a half bow.
Yeah, that one.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He waves.
Yeah.
Oh,
All of your companions do the same.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, we can stop that now.
Yeah, it's not that now.
gonna loop for a bit. So, cool! You guys are now honoured members of Elven society.
With an aristocracy.
Mm. Well, you're not quite that because you don't have like the land or any of the titles or anything like that. But you are
We have the
Well, we
wealth.
kind of have the money.
not nearly on the level of Elven aristocracy. No.
We've got some money.
You've got some money.
Elven middle class.
But you are now effectively considered to be a higher class of citizen, which, considering most of you are not elves, is very unheard of.
It's only he's like fucking.
Okay. So.
He's just sort of like, man, I can't wait until people at home like hear of this. This is really cool.
Can we talk about the fact that the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I brought them here for you," and then didn't invite them to the fucking ceremony? Rob?
You don't know that they weren't invited.
They just didn't show up. Oh no! They hate me now.
Well, maybe they thought it was not the most appropriate reunion.
That's true.
Oh shit.
Oh shit, indeed.
So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the doors close behind you and you're back in the dressing room.
Vondal lets out a big sigh.
Yeah.
Arya's like, "Can I get this stuff off my face now?"
Oh, Arya.
I want my woad.
You start like wiping it off. Iloran is immediately just taking this armor off, like at least trying to, but he can't.
Can I help him?
Yeah, I was like, I'll help
Yeah.
him.
I say, I think only Kelariis is tall enough to actually help him.
Look,
I'll help him.
he's
Yeah.
only got leg armor.
I mean, technically, it is going to take him 10 minutes to get out of this because this is technically heavy armor.
Yeah.
I'll help Iloran.
I was gonna say, surely she's got leg armor.
Yeah.
He would help, but I'm not sure she would make it any easier.
Well, Kelariis knows how to take heavy armor off, so. Yeah, you help him out of it. He does look very uncomfortable in it. Give me a perception check, actually, Kelariis, as you help him take this off.
Perception?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
that's-
Like he's like shaking a little bit.
Oh, honey.
But no, I think I'd probably do actually say to him like, just that bad, huh?
He just like he doesn't even sort of like respond. It's just sort of like, ugh.
My poor son.
I'll probably pause, like, if I notice him shaking, put a hand on his shoulder and just be like, you alright?
Yeah, he basically turns to you and says, sort of like he tries to say this in a joking way, but it comes out deadly serious, which is, and he just says, "I ran away from home to get away from things like this."
Aw. Poor babes.
Yeah, and you get the sneaking suspicion that he's not lying.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable.
You certainly don't strike home as the noble type.
So what's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, bitch.
Nobility type, as in like the type to act in nobility.
I suppose that's fair. Somebody just walks up to him and sort of like takes his arm and says, "That's a shame because for a moment there you really were my knight in shining armor," in a really patronising voice.
Holy
No,
shit.
Vondal burst out laughing at that one.
Aw, Simone.
Vondal
I
was, like,
love
outright
her.
laughing at that.
Kelariis
That's
just like,
hilarious.
the fuck is this?
Yeah.
How does the illness assassin's look?
They're just sort of like they're just like there, like holding like the medals that they've been given. Like Zale is just like trying to like pin it onto like his suit thing, and he's just like, I don't know how to pin this on. And Lysatis is just sort of like looking at it, and they're both sort of like a little bit overwhelmed. Like they've never like been praised like this before. Like it's real important to them because they're both elven citizens. But yeah, like a few minutes passes of like Ilaran's like trying to get his armor off, and there's a bunch of servants there who are just sort of like trying to like they're not sure whether to interfere because they're like, oh, you shouldn't really be taking that off in here because we're just gonna have to take it back upstairs, but they're not gonna tell him not to do it. At which point, like the doors like creak open a little bit, and you can sort of like see that everyone's like sort of gathered around and is like talking in the hall. And Helena slips through the doors, and she's just like, oh, I'm so happy for all of you, and then turns to Ilaran and is just like, you could have waited to get upstairs before you did that. And he's just like, no, I really couldn't.
I'm used to the scene she's walked in on. She's walked in on somebody grabbing his arm and a dwarf laughing his head off.
Yeah.
Oh god. This is great. I'm loving every minute of this.
Yeah.
I feel like V is just sort of like, wow, people really do pay so much attention to clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, I spend most of my time naked.
What?
Nothing. It's just great.
Yeah.
Look, V has gotten used to wearing clothes. It's just like sometimes people are just like, it's really important that you wear these specific clothes. And she's like, okay.
I'm just glad I kept them off my beard.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Helena sort of like goes around all of you, and is sort of like I guess Vondal, she probably like shakes your hand, and she probably shakes like Simone and Zale's hand, and Lysatis as well, I guess. V, she sort of like she goes up to you, and she isn't quite sure whether like she should hug you, and then I presume you just go in for the hug anyway. Yeah. So okay, so there's like a little hug, and she's like, "Oh, congratulations." Kelariis, like she sort of like she goes up to you and she's just sort of like, is this handshake or is this, I don't know, where's the middle ground here? Because she's like she's significantly like shorter than you, so she's just like, I don't really know where to go with this.
A handshake.
Yeah.
A firm handshake.
This is like an awkward like sort of like, okay, this is a handshake. Congratulations.
God.
And then she, when she sees you, Arya, she's sort of like, she's about to go for the handshake, and then she's like, I don't know if Father spoke to you, but he does have something that he'd like to see you about in his chambers, if that's all right.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. This is
Wait.
a private meeting with a fucking exarch.
Oh,
Yep.
it's the moon elf dude. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, that's
Elena's
that's not
father.
the moon elf. If it
Evelios.
was the moon elf, I'd really be losing my shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so
Yeah.
who is asking Ari's brother?
Evelios.
Oh, Evelios. I see.
Alark. Yeah, Illiran's dad.
Everyone's dead.
Yeah. Presumably with what she was just talked about.
Yeah, I assume that's the.
I assume that as well because I know.
Yes.
Ha,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So she leads you back through the hall, and out the door that the exarchs exited through. Excuse me. Which leads into a similar sort of like dressing room area. She leads you through another door, which leads up to a staircase, which goes up 2 or 3 floors, and then you come out onto a landing and go into a small office, where you see that Exarchophalcair is already sort of like he's disrobed to a degree. He's still like very formally dressed, but he's sort of like he's disrobed and he's sat down in a chair, and we can have a private conversation.
Oh,
No, I want to be part of this.
Too bad.
See you guys.
You'll have to watch the video.
Sorry.
Mm.
Hi.
Hello. So yes, Elenia sort of gives a curt head nod and leaves the room. And he says, Arya, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, sir. I guess sir is the right term.
It's close enough.
Your Highness? Your Grace?
Your Grace would be
Your Grace.
pretty good,
Okay,
yeah.
We'll go with your Grace.
Yeah. So yeah, he nods and says, yes, as I mentioned previously during the ceremony, I was intrigued by when you gave your name. I had heard the surname Tallithsyr before, only in passing, but I had wondered if it was the same family. And you will forgive my curiosity, but I had to have answers to my questions.
It's only natural to want answers, sir. So
He
I'm
nods.
afraid I haven't had much contact with my family in many years.
He nods throughout the conversation and says, yes, when I spoke to them, they, well, for starters, they seemed quite surprised that you had crossed paths with me.
Yeah.
As were you,
I
no
don't
doubt.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah, he says they seemed quite surprised that you'd crossed paths with me, but they did ask after your well-being. From the tales of your story, I understand that your parting was not necessarily on good terms.
No, I'm afraid it wasn't.
He grimaces and sort of says, I'm sure you are aware by now that the circumstances under which my son and I parted ways is not entirely dissimilar to yours.
Yeah. Yes, I have been told some of the story. I can see similarities between the two of us. Perhaps not for the best, but we both made our own choices in the end.
He furrows his brow for a moment and
Yes, Mom.
and says, yes, I suppose after a fashion you are right. Matters not, the past is in the past. What is done cannot be undone.
No.
I know for certain that when Helena returned to me and told me that Ilaran was safe, and all of the perils that he had been through, and seeing him myself face to face made me as happy as a father can be. I believe that your father and mother would perhaps benefit from a similar audience, even only in passing. I understand that the wounds of time cannot be healed in a simple conversation, but
I agree. I think it would be for the best if we could meet. It's been a long time.
he nods in agreement and says, I had asked them if they'd wished to attend the event today, but they felt that surprising, turning up as a surprise would be not a good method for a reunion. I have offered them the comfort of my halls here as a place to stay, and should you wish to see them today or sometime in the near future, it can be arranged for you to speak with them, either alone or with your companions if you wish.
Yeah. Yes, that would be very kind of you. Gosh. I don't know. I kind of want to speak with them now, maybe? I don't know.
Out of character, that's totally doable, but it's up to you.
I mean, I might as well, I guess.
Okay. So you say to him,
Yeah,
I
would like to meet with them now, if that's possible.
He nods, raises his voice and says, Helena, if you wouldn't mind. Helena pops back in, and he says to her, if you could escort Miss Tallithsyr, she would like to see her family. Yeah, and Helena quite happily takes you. She leads you through another series of corridors, down a set of stairs, and as you reach another landing, you see a thin moon-elf man with small reading spectacles who seems to be pacing nervously outside of the room.
Aww.
Which you recognise as your father.
God. How does one meet one's father after 100 years?
That's a very good question. I guess you start with hi.
Yeah, I suppose I just, say, father?
At the sound of your voice, he looks up, sees you, and as he looks at you, there's all of the signs of recognition and remembrance, and you imagine that there's so many things running through his head as there's no doubt 100,000 things running through yours.
Yeah.
And he says, Arya, it is so good to see you.
It has been quite a long time, hasn't it? Perhaps longer than I intended.
He smiles and sort of says, yes, far longer than any of us expected, I think. You should come in. You should come in. Your mother will be so excited to see you.
Okay, I guess I follow him in.
He sort of as you walk towards the door, he's about to open the door, and he turns back towards you, and give me an insight check, I guess.
Okay. Oh, I'm so interested to see. Oh, 20.
Okay. He looks like he wants to hug you, but he isn't quite sure if he should.
Daddy. Alright, I'll hug him.
Okay. You hug your father, and he rapidly loses his composure and begins to cry.
Oh. I also tear up a bit.
Okay.
It's cute as shit.
Helena sort of hovers and just sort of says, I'll be outside.
So I just pat my dad on the back. It's it's okay.
Okay. you step inside, and sitting on a chair as you enter is a very plain-looking Munaf woman that you recognize as your mother.
Hey, don't call my mom plain. Jeez.
Sorry, plainly dressed.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's very rude.
Yes. Yeah, she's very very simply dressed. She doesn't do fancy.
Same.
That's where you get it from, presumably.
Yep.
But yeah, no, she's sitting on a chair, and as you look up, there is a young boy who is basically
I have a little sibling!
sitting at her feet, who cannot be, in elven terms, he cannot be more than 10 or 11 years old, which is still basically kind of like toddler for elves.
Oh my god. Arya's just gonna be, like, visibly shocked at the fact that there's this little boy.
He looks very much like a younger version of your father.
Right.
But yes. Yeah, your mother, like, sort of immediately stands up, and like she is speechless for a moment before she just, like, the first words out of her mouth are, "Snowbell, it's so good to see you."
Oh man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Not heard that name in a long time.
I've been called many
Long
things. Snowbell is not one of them.
Mm.
Hello, Mother.
She sort of, like, looks at you and just goes, "Must you call me that?"
What else do I call her?
Mum.
Mom, yeah. Sorry, it's been a long time. Mom.
She smiles and sort of begins to tear up, and sort of, like, moves towards you for a hug.
Yeah, I hug her back.
Yeah.
Mong hugs are the best hugs.
Yeah.
So.
You'd forgotten quite how this feels.
Yeah. Arya's having a lot of feels right now. I am also having a lot of feels right now.
Yeah.
And I guess I sort of look down at this little boy and I'm like,
Yeah.
and who is this? It's been a long damn time.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, she picks up this boy and, like, sort of rests him on her sort of hip, and says, "Arya, this is Leal. Leal, this is your sister." And he sort of looks up at you, sort of in the way that young children do when they don't quite really know who you are. He seems to sort of, like, he sees, like, he finds something comforting in your features, like he's not, like, afraid.
Right.
But
he just doesn't really know.
But he doesn't recognize you, and he immediately sort of, like he looks at you, and then you look back at him, and the eye contact is there for a moment, and then he just sort of, like, nuzzles into to Mum because he's shy.
Oh, it's so cute. Hello, Leo. Afraid you haven't met me yet. I've been gone for a very long time.
Yeah. Sort of, like, ruffle his hair a little bit. But yeah, your mother goes and sits down and says, "Come, sit down. It's been so long since we've seen you. How have you been?"
I confess that I have not been well for most of the time that I have been away. It's only been the last couple of months that things have begun to go in my favor, I suppose. Due in large part to the companions I have found along the way.
Yeah, your dad sort of nods at this and says, yes, the Exarch did mention that you'd made some unusual friends.
Yes. It's a rather odd band of people, but they have been incredible in the time that I have known them. And I don't think I could have accomplished all of this without them.
Your father sort of he nods and says, your mother and I, we're very proud of what you have done. To which your mother just sort of like she smiles, shakes her head, and says, "I'm just happy that you made some good friends."
Yes, it's an odd feeling after being alone for so long, but I think I've come to accept that I can't do everything by myself. No matter how much I want to.
Yeah, your mother sort of like looks at Leal, looks at your father, and then looks at you and says, "No, it is. The lonely life is not always a happy one."
I guess I sort of like fill them in on like a brief synopsis, sort of.
Yes, they listen sort of adamantly to your story, and I guess you just spend some time with them.
Yeah.
Cool. So we can totally go back, and then you can come back to the scene whenever you want.
I want them to meet my little brother.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
so
cute. Okay.
That we've been.
Oh. All right.
Hello.
Hello.
Arya is gone for a long time, like 30-40 minutes.
Oh shit. Wow.
So what do you guys do in the meantime?
Party.
Well, they are after a while sort of some of the serving staff come back like once you've finished like sort of getting sorted, like Eleran takes his armor off and everything. And they say that there is an opportunity for you all to have a meal together.
Woohoo!
Cool.
We'll never turn down free food.
Okay.
Doesn't like
Get
any
some
true
more to the
college
medal
student.
for your food.
Yeah, we'll put some aside for Arya.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really need to do that because the amount of food here is not the amount of food that you could eat, like rationally about amongst yourselves.
Fair enough.
It's a
There's
proper
there's
feast.
one important question, Ferrous.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ale?
Ooh, probably not.
Oh no.
Damn it.
It is probably mostly wine.
God fucking damn it.
Elves, man.
I was disappointed.
There probably is fortified wine if that's your kind of thing.
Probably not. It's still wine.
Man, don't diss a good fortified wine.
Is there spirits?
It's not really that sort of meal.
Yeah. In that case, Vondal is just slightly irritated.
Oh my god.
But
Okay.
you'll put up with it.
Right, yeah, I guess we just go to the meal dinner thing.
Cool. Yeah, you eat. It takes you a long time. And then I presume at some point Arya arrives. Do you bring anybody with you?
Yes, I bring all of them with me.
Okay.
Oh.
All of them.
Oh, there's gonna be
Oh,
a sibling.
Oh shit.
So Arya joins you along with Elenia and three other moon elves. One of whom is a rather thin-looking, older-looking man. I would say he has greying hair, but they all have grey hair.
Wow.
Grayer than usual.
But yeah, he looks like an older elf, and he has a very thin pair of reading glasses just permanently perched on his face.
Wait, Rob.
Yes.
Can I be carrying Leal?
Sure.
Yes!
Oh my god.
Shit.
There is a moon elf woman who is wearing a very plain sort of not quite dress, but sort of I suppose it is a dress. It's just got quite short, probably like knee-length fabric. But she looks very simple, and you can see a lot of Arya in her. The facial features are very similar. But yes, she is talking to a small child who cannot be, in Elven years, is about 10 or 11, which by Elven standards is still toddler. So he is quite small, and Arya is basically carrying him on her hip shoulder, and he doesn't seem like 100% comfortable being held.
Too bad!
But yeah, the woman who looks like Arya is talking to this child. It's at this point sort of that Lyra, who has been sort of sitting patiently waiting with you guys, goes to be reunited with Arya.
She wasn't there.
Sort of looks at the other elves, smells them a little bit, and isn't quite sure.
Like Arya, but not Arya?
But they're like Arya, but they're
But
not
they're-
Arya.
Yeah.
But they're definitely not Arya.
They're like Arya.
Well, I'm pretty sure Lyra has a concept of parents.
Yeah.
She's more just like not, like she's not like super in, like she's like a little bit iffy about the small hairless elf pup.
Wow.
Small hairless elf.
Oh my god.
So fucking cute.
So yeah,
I wish-
Arya arrives.
With my entire family.
Yes, but they don't know that yet because you haven't
They
said
don't know
that.
that yet.
I have a feeling, I think.
I'm assuming
You have
accompany
a feeling, yes.
this- I'm assuming you accompany the survival with words.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Come sit close to us.
Because yeah, I guess I'll sit down next to you guys and be like, so this is unexpected, but everyone, I would like you to meet my mother and father and my little brother, who I didn't know I had.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Do you actually add that?
Half an hour ago.
Yeah.
No, I don't say that.
Everybody, give me perception checks.
Oh, wow, look at these doubles.
Hey.
Nice.
Okay. Wow. Vondal and Kelariis, all of them except for the small child look like they've been crying.
Aww.
Oh.
Small child doesn't know to cry.
Yep.
He doesn't know who I am.
Small child is too small.
If he's too interested in the small child to know.
In that case, I will. I guess in that case, I will introduce myself in Elvish to Mr. and Mrs. Mr.
Okay.
Tallithsyr.
God
Very
damn
well.
it.
Yes, they greet you back, and then presumably the rest of you. So like, you address them in common, so they greet you in common as well.
I can talk to them in Sylvan.
That's true.
You
could
can,
do that.
but
Oh, please.
please
Yeah,
don't have a conversation in 3 languages, because that would just be a headache for anyone at the table.
Yeah. Kelariis would know what's going on.
I sit there awkwardly.
She's just like, what?
They stick mainly to common.
I just wanted to introduce myself in Elvish.
Yes. Oh, that's a thing, actually. Okay, so... when you introduce yourself, Arya's father fairly accurately recognizes your accent.
Whoa, mine?
No, Vondal's.
Oh, I
Huh?
see.
Oh shit.
Oh shit, indeed.
Yes. He is a scholar.
Huzzah.
Presumably you guys just chat.
Yeah, like small
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Get to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, you basically learn that Arya's father is a scribe. Who basically he has numerous qualifications in history and geography, but he until fairly recently was mostly a full-time scribe. He has since retired. But you learn of Arya's mother that she is a apothecary.
Oh snap.
She is she's a bit more than apothecary. She knows herbalism and a small amount of alchemy, and is basically capable of making potions and things, healing people, and basically acts as like a I don't know what you would call her. She's like the equivalent of a modern like first responder.
Hmm.
Oh shit.
But yes. She seems to be like sort of the what's the word? I don't want to say breadwinner because that's not quite right. But she definitely has the higher earning job in the family.
Girl power.
Yes. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Clearly, I mean,
Because
I don't-
that's you take after your mother, strong and independent woman.
Yep.
Huzzah.
And then
So
my little
yeah, does
brother.
your mother no longer not share backstory either?
No, she does. She's really nice.
Yeah, mother just quite happily tells you about stories.
Can we get embarrassing stories from
Um,
Arya?
Holy
Oh, one thing that definitely happens at least once during dinner. Arya's mother continually refers to her as Snowbell,
Oh.
That's so cute.
which is really embarrassing for Arya.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, mom!
Mum, please don't.
These are my friends.
You're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Aw.
He's just sort of like, can I call you that too?
No.
No,
It's getting embarrassed at Vondal.
it's not allowed.
I want flower names for everyone. If he has a revelation, guys.
Oh boy. I want to hear where this one goes.
Yeah, where does this one go?
It goes to you all being called things like Snowbell and Baby Blue.
Oh god.
I just want Leo to like me. Because he's so cute.
Do you attempt to feed him at any point?
Sure.
He now likes
Let's
you.
see something. Yes!
Oh my god.
Wow.
If you feed small children, they instantly like you. It is a known fact.
It is known.
I want to show
Right.
flowers to
Next on your list of things to do with him, right? Now you have to like play fight with him.
Yeah,
I can't believe.
play peekaboo.
Play fight with him, and then teach him archery, and then he'll like love you forever.
There you go. Can definitely do that.
I mean, he's a bit too young for that at the moment.
It's
yeah,
fine.
he's a little baby.
Nah, never too young to start that.
Yeah.
Gotta start
Freaking
young.
Kelariis.
When I was 11, I could already wield a sword.
I mean, elves still mature at the same rate as humans. He's still like an 11-year-old boy.
No,
Just
he's
technically
younger.
a child.
No, because he's moon elf, so they don't.
Oh.
No, we mature differently.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's weird.
I mean, that's why I'm like, however many years
Yeah.
old, and still have the body of a 29, 8, 7-ish year old woman.
Yes.
I forgot how old I was.
Year-old.
I think you're 27. How
Yeah.
I
old
think I'm
is
27.
like Arya's mom and dad? Because her dad is quite old.
Yeah, so...
Quite old to have like a toddler as a child.
Not that... He's not that old. He is
He's
older.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's retired.
Yes, but he is nowhere near as old as, say, Lord Silverbrook, who is
Right.
very old.
That's fair.
Is he like 50-ish?
Yeah, he's probably late 40s.
Okay.
Actually, he's probably actually mid 40s.
That's a question. Did I ask them? Well, I guess I wouldn't ask. Why don't you have another kid? No,
Because you're gone.
had to replace me. You were gone.
You left.
You left before we had time to have this conversation with you. Actually, no, that's not true.
No. He's gone
He
for a
was
bit
a
longer
surprise
than
baby.
11 years.
I like to imagine he was a bit of a surprise.
Fucking hell.
I mean, like, if you legitimately ask that question,
I don't know if I do. I don't know. Sure, why not?
well, yeah, like, your dad basically says, well, after you left, your mother and I would we threw ourselves into our jobs, sort of like worked really hard on stuff. Then when I retired, I sort of like, well, he's first of all he tells you about like why he retired.
Okay. When did he retire?
Yeah, he basically tells you a story of like how he was offered a senior position in his within the history organization that he works with. He decided not to take it. He didn't feel like he was he didn't feel like he wanted to work in that position. He felt like he wanted to carry on doing what he was doing. He didn't take it. Then they were looking for new people to join the workforce, and he decided that he'd had enough. He didn't want to he was tired of working that job anymore. So he he took his retirement early because your mother and I discussed it, and your mother's still working, so I've taken some time out, and I'm doing my own thing. I've taken up gardening. I'm writing a book.
Oh,
Holy
that's
shit.
nice.
Yeah, like he tells you the story, but then he basically says, then sort of like it was just your mother and I in the evenings, and we talked about potentially having another kid, and at first we decided that no, it was better if we didn't, and then we sort of warmed up to the idea, and then sort of without even thinking about it, then Leo was here.
Aww. Guys, I'm so happy. I have a little baby brother.
Yes, you do.
That's so cute.
And you're like 20 something.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, one of my best friends, Ironclaw, is like 9 years apart from her baby brother, so
They're
shit
still
happens.
kind of different from like.
Eh. We're elves, who cares?
I mean, when you're elves and like 100 years is like 2 years, then
Yeah.
I mean, she's still like 27, and her brother is like a toddler. So there's like
Yeah,
more than like quote unquote 20 years between them. It's a lot.
yeah, it is a lot. Yes.
I mean, it's definitely unusual, but it's not
Yeah.
like that.
It's also not super unusual for like people to have children in their like late 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means I had Arya pretty early on.
Yes.
They're high school sweethearts.
Oh, can
Yeah,
you believe?
Well, that's what you think.
It's more like,
Your dad offers to tell that story, which you
No.
decline.
like, good, I'm good. Man, Arya is just like. getting
Arya,
all-
this is the story of how I met your mother.
Oh no!
Cue like 5 seasons later.
Yeah. I think it's more than 5. I think it's like 6. 6 or 7.
I can't even. I lost track.
Yeah, it was a long ass show.
Anyway,
Anyway.
so you have.
He's like, I never had a dad.
Oh no!
It's just like an awkward silence at the table.
I'm sure my dad is just like, I'll be your dad.
Vondal's dad is dead.
Oh, it's weird. Dads.
Has he ever told us about that?
Nope.
No.
It's never been mentioned. Well, actually, no. Well,
Yeah.
no, his father's never been mentioned. Actually, he
Yeah.
might have been a few times, but never that he's dead.
Kelariis' dad is only about 30.
My young.
It's Dragonborn for you.
Yep.
Yup.
They don't live as long as us elves over here.
I mean, Kelariis is like 15.
Yup. Also that.
And I'm like 175.
Yeah,
My
like
brother was probably born just shortly after you, actually, Kelariis.
Yeah.
Shit.
it's like think about it.
It's
If
fine.
Elios was like, "Oh, you're so young," but I think Kelariis is actually young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, now I think about it, right? If Arya's dad is like mid-40s, Vondal probably looks older.
Probably.
Because equivalent Vondal is like 50.
Yeah. Well, especially because he's an elf as well, so he doesn't
Yeah.
show the aging.
Yeah.
As much.
That's weird to think about. Vondal is
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
but looks older.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you've
so-
got like probably like major sort of like your wrinkles are beginning to like start to show.
Yeah. The occasional grey hair in the beard is found.
I mean, I'm getting that, and I'm 20.
Well, some people gray sooner than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of imagine Arya's dad looks a little bit like my dad, except without like the balding.
I say he looks like my dad, but my dad's entirely bald, so.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah,
My
so
family is so plain, guys.
what,
So-
IRL or
Look at this
No,
family.
it's like this family.
Yeah.
yeah, they are very. You notice this as you have conversations over dinner. This family is very mundane in comparison to Arya. Arya is just like
Yeah.
so much more extreme in every way.
I think it's just interesting for V to see like such a normal family.
Mm.
Yeah, that's weird. A true rebel. Yep. I'm
A
true
family without 3 moms who are also trees.
We're like, a family can be 3 trees and a little girl. Oh god.
Oh, fucking hell. This session's weird.
Yeah,
It's a weird
Yeah.
session.
it's a great session.
I apologise for the weird mood I put in as well, by the way.
It's okay. So, yeah, with that, I guess you guys finish your meal. At which point, I guess, like, for like the last 5 minutes, like, Leal has sort of been like running around and like interacting with stuff, and he trips over something and bumps himself and starts to cry, and your mum stands up and basically says, "I think somebody's been awake a little bit too long."
Oh, poor baby. Baby is tired.
A little bit too much excitement for one day.
Still cute though.
Meet your sibling who's been gone the entire time you've been alive.
Yeah.
They don't think that's quite settled in yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he really understands.
No.
Probably not.
Also in character, I totally did not know that I had a sibling because Rob didn't tell me.
Yep.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah. What made the reveal all the more fun.
Yep.
But yeah, so your parents sort of go to take Leal back to the room, and they're sort of, there's a moment where they're just sort of like, they're not quite sure, because they're like, "Oh, you could come with us." And then there's all your friends there, and it's just sort of like, I don't really know what you want to do.
I don't know. I go with my family or stay with my friends? It's a good
That's your
question.
choice.
You have all the time in the world. You should go.
Okay. I guess I'll go with them.
Okay. You spend the evening with your family.
Sit around the fire.
Cool.
Have some toast.
Some toast.
Some
That's such a fucking British statement. Like, who just
Sit on the
has
fire, have some tea, biscuits, toast.
So we
Get
just
some
had a
jam.
giant meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
So, what are the rest of you gonna do with your evening?
Gossip about Arya.
that was such an immediate response. Can we talk about
Okay.
Come on then, start the gossip.
Silence.
Look, I don't know. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Sweet jokes.
It's
Well,
banter, bro. I don't know what we do with the rest of
So I
Arya.
guess we just go back to wherever we were staying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess you sort of full of pride with your new things go back to your place in the Moon District.
My sparkly things.
Yeah, I guess sort of as you're leaving, sort of you meet Zale and Lysatus, who are sort of leaving as well. And they're sort of like, "Oh, we'll walk with you because Zale's going back to the Moon District anyway, and I'm going that way." And you sort of like walk home, or walk back to your accommodation together. No sign of Illaran and Simone. You're guessing Illaran is staying there. You have no idea where Simone has been for like the last 5 days.
Come on in.
Just military pals, potentially. Whoever they are.
I mean, she's a wild hunt, so I don't know.
Maybe
I guess
one
there's
day-
some.
Maybe one day we'll find out.
Who knows? I mean, you could have asked her, but
We could have,
That's
but
true.
it was very out of character to ask.
gone now.
Yeah, it was
Gone
very
now.
out of character to ask.
But yeah, I guess you guys go back and spend the rest of your evening and probably take a long rest. Arya, you can either go back and join your companions for a long rest, or you can stay with your parents.
I thought we agreed to stay. Let's stay with my parents. Kind of rude.
Oh, there was the opportunity to spend the evening, but you can also sleep there.
Oh.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I guess I'll just sleep there.
Yeah. Cool. Just so I know where everybody is.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess with that, that's a nice enough place to actually round off the session.
Oh my god, we finished so early.
my
Oh
God.
shit.
No.
Shit.
So, who wants to be first to tell me the things that they have learned today, whilst I calculate some experience?
How are we gonna get any experience?
Yeah,
when we
how are
did
we
today?
gonna get experience?
Wait, first of all, how are we even getting experience? Second of all, how have we learnt anything?
Achievement get found your lost family. That's how you get experience.
Yeah, clearly.
Well, what if you've got nothing that you've learned? What did you enjoy from today?
I learned some shit.
Yeah, well, no, that's what I'm asking. So, who wants to go first?
Yes,
I mean, I can go. Oh,
Okay, there you go. Go, Luka.
Well, I don't know. You were just like, I don't learned anything.
Fuck, go then.
Okay.
Oh, God, guys.
So,
So Arya's learned a lot.
hmm
Mostly that the Exarch apparently knows who her family is, which is kind of weird. But you know.
He's the Exarch. If a question gets asked, it gets answered.
That's true. But he was like, yeah, I've heard of your family, like, passing it. And I was like, why? Because my mom is just that much of a badass? Like, who knows? Also, she's learned that her family is, like, still a thing.
Yeah.
Kind of glad about. I mean, it's not like she didn't dislike her family, but, I mean, she just wanted to go out and fight monsters and shit, which ended terribly for her.
Yes.
But at the time, that was all she wanted to do, and her family was super not about that. Because, you know, they were a scribe and a medic.
Yes.
Very much
Well,
not.
let's just say when your attempts to slay monsters went disastrously wrong and resulted in your best friend's death,
Yeah.
they wanted you to go to therapy and you wanted revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess who won that battle? The unhealthy coping mechanism.
You wouldn't know that.
Yep.
But it's a good job you did, because you ended up saving the world.
It is a good job. So there you go, kids. Don't go to therapy.
Don't go to therapy,
therapy.
kids.
Go on a quest for revenge. You'll save the world. No, that's a
Pick
terrible.
up a hammer and kill a chimera.
Yeah,
Or a bow.
or bow, as the case may be.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think she's kind of happy to see her family.
Yeah.
Okay.
It certainly helped give you a new perspective after you spent a lot of the last the last day or so wondering, what do I do with the rest of my life now that my revenge
Yeah.
quest is done?
Yeah, I like in character and out of character have no idea what Arya wants to do right now. I mean, I think she's pretty chill with just tagging along with the group to whatever they want to do. But it is kind of like startling to realize that she has like a younger brother that she didn't know about. She kind of wants to get to know him a little bit. So.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since she's been to the Feywild. And it's kind of misses home a little bit. So, out of character, I love being a fucking hero.
Mhm.
Give me all the awards. And I was pretty excited about my little brother, who I didn't know about. Because babies are the best. They're so cute. Yeah. I really did not know how to react to my parents. Because, like,
Yeah. Which was
Rob
great,
kinda-
because Arya had no idea either.
No. I mean, Rob had kind of told me that they were going to be here, and I was like, okay. But
Yeah. I didn't tell you how or why.
no. You just were like, they might be here, and I was like, what? Which is not at all how I was expecting to find them, but whatever.
No.
Worked out just fine.
they found you.
They found me.
Shit.
Sort of. The Exarch found them, and then
Yes.
told them where to find me. And
The Exarch brought you together.
yeah. Because me and Ilaran, like, both ran away from home.
Yes. Well, for the benefit of those who didn't hear, they hurt or he knew your name because you gave him your name when you spoke to him. And when he found out about you, he was curious as to who you were, so he did some research. He found out who your parents were and sort of went, "So, what's the deal with your daughter?" And they told him, because he's an exarch, and you don't say no to that kind of question.
Yep.
And then he realized that there were similarities between himself and your parents. And then when he discovered that Ilran had come back safe from the Feywild, from the Shadowfell thanks to you, he sent a message to the Feywild for your parents to come along to potentially be reunited with you. So.
I mean, we're just gonna ignore the fact that I was instrumental in getting him to the Shadowfell in the first place, but whatever.
But it wasn't the fact that he went, it's the fact that he came back.
Right.
Just as in the same way, it wasn't the fact that you left that made your parents feel anything, it was the fact that you came back.
Yeah. Sort of. I didn't actually come back.
Yeah.
To them,
You
specifically.
met in the middle.
Yeah. Close enough. Cool.
Hooray.
So,
Yeah.
with that, you can take 425 experience.
Cool.
I'll type that in chat just so everybody can see it. Who's next?
I guess I'll go.
Okay.
Not sure what I've learned this session because I've not really done anything. Well, I don't know. There wasn't like a lot of stuff that really involved me, so I haven't done much. But it was still very interesting.
Hmm.
I liked meeting Arya's family, and I liked the fact that I was liberating everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to hear what he said to Ilran.
Yeah. I've got to actually come up with that. So.
Oh, yeah.
And also to Simone.
Mm.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting one, too.
Oh boy.
That will be an interesting one indeed. Also, you got to touch the tree.
I did get to touch the tree. That was a very good Arcana roll, but I wanted it. Please. Yeah. It's just funny because V is just like, oh, this is cool. And I think she's also happy to know someone. Well, quote unquote know. Well, she probably would already call the Raven Queen her friend, but but she's already
Maybe.
happy to sort of know someone who said that she is like her.
Hmm.
Like, you know, it's like a feeling of like, hey, I'm not like alone in this, even though you're super mysterious about it. It still makes me kind of happy. Yeah. I think the sort of whole ceremony thing was kind of awkward for me because I just imagined her sort of like fidgeting a lot and sort of being like, okay, there's a lot of talking going on. I'm not sure really sure what to do here.
Yeah. Like a kid in church.
Yeah.
That was exactly how I wanted you to feel.
Amazing.
I've spent a lot of time in church.
Yes,
Really?
Yeah, I feel that.
Yep.
You?
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. We still haven't really, because I know you're gonna sort of like write V out for like a few sessions. But I assume that's gonna happen next session. Because I have other stuff to be, or like other stuff to do and other.
Well, yeah, it depends on when your dates get finalized. Depends on when I write you out. But yes, I have a way of writing you out.
Right, but it still might take a while. So. And I feel bad because like the longer I stay here, the longer it's gonna take for Grim to come back.
Well,
Yeah.
Grim can come back before you leave. It's just this bit needs to end. Which it can do.
Yeah, I think that was sort of everything. We did talk a lot of shit in like in the
Yeah.
end. Sometimes it felt like we were doing more banter than roleplay, but
Yeah. But that was okay, because this is a session that was meant to be sort of... It's getting rid of all that sort of tension that your characters have. It's getting your characters back into the happy and light-hearted characters that they
Arya
are.
ever been happy and lighthearted?
Now.
Now.
Oh,
right
now,
now.
yeah.
Surprise, bitch. Like,
Surprise,
I
bitch.
think
Arya's
it's gonna
happy
be
for once.
interesting as well when we have Arya sort of be more upbeat and be like nicer.
Yep.
Yeah, I won't be so abrasive.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Well,
gonna be
Grim's in
weird?
for a shock, because you've come back from the Shadowfell and you're not a bitch anymore.
I know! All it took, right, was finding my dead best friend, freeing his soul, meeting my little brother that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
And almost dying to a chimera. So there you go. That's all you need to not
That's
become a bitch.
life.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, take your experience. Who's next?
Oh boy. But yeah, this session, like you said, like this is like a wind down session, but like, yeah, it was really appreciated.
Yeah.
It's like, gee, it's nice to come into a D&D session, like start the recording and not be instantly filled with dread.
Yeah. And not have to worry about death.
Yeah, exactly. It was nice to have like a wind down and just have a moment.
Although
I apologize if I was overly giddy.
That's
I kind
okay.
of realized about halfway through the actual session, I was like, am I being too much?
You did actually have you were one of the people who had a very serious moment this session.
I did.
Which nobody knows about. Ooh.
Because I
Gotta
was
find
very
out more.
dismissive. I was very dismissive because, to be honest, if that had come to a situation where I'd had to explain, I wouldn't know how I would have worded it. But no, so yeah, like visiony thing, that was actually really fun. I really enjoyed going through that. But yeah, the reason he was like so sort of, it's fine, don't worry about it, is because he was, you know, like it was both me and I feel like he would also have to take a moment to sort of wrap his head around it and go, right, what actually was that?
Yeah, you don't really know what it means yet, and it's the first time you've ever had a vision like that. So
Exactly. So he needed a moment to process. Like, it's a thing of like he's processed it now. So if anyone ever asks again, or the topic ever comes up, he's more than happy to share.
Yeah, and you've got some things to look out for in the future. Ooh.
I do.
Ooh.
Things.
Oh shit.
One might call them shenanigans.
What?
Potential shenanigans, yeah.
Potential shenanigans.
Shenanigans in this campaign?
No, weirdly enough, I do see problems in the future coming, and it's like, oh god.
But he did say it's not your problem yet.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the person I have to help. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Is
you
there
don't know
gonna
who
be
that
one?
is yet.
no, I don't. But I'm like, is there going to be any kind of in-group conflict with this guy? But or person, whoever it is.
You'll have to find out.
Exactly. But no, it was nice to have a little wind-down session, and I may have been a bit too intense, so whoops. But hey,
That's
I
okay.
had a lot of fun, and it was a good sort of wind down from the hellhole that was the Shadowfell.
Yeah, fuck the Shadowfell.
Nice. Yeah, have your experience. And as always, last but not least.
Well, I might have almost. Well, I could have learned something today, but I fucked up that roll real bad. So, that's unfortunate. No. But I mean, okay, out of character, it was really nice, kind of meeting Arya's family. I think in character too, that was kind of a interesting thing, and it was nice to have a later session after everything in the Shadowfell and all of that. So that was super fun and nice to have. Plate armor, I really like, even though it was really expensive.
Yeah. Oh, I need to actually add that to you guys' sheets.
Oh, I dragged it into mine. I don't know if I.
Oh, you okay? Yeah, you've already done it then. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's. I wasn't sure like when we officially got it, but I was like, well, I can drag it in so I don't forget to do it later.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make sure that's in everybody's sheets done correctly.
Cool. Yeah, and it was nice to have the moment with Tritherian, both like as a player and as Kelariis, because she hadn't really had the time to properly do that for a bit with everything that had been going on. Also,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the answer that I got.
No.
No, I wasn't expecting that at all. I was just gonna. I asked because I knew, or well, like Kelariis asked because she wants to know, especially after the whole nightmare she had before going into the Shadowfell. Wait, yes. And because she's just thinking a lot about that sort of stuff anyway. But I was not expecting the answer I got.
No.
About
Which was funny because I didn't expect you to ask that question, but on Friday night I wrote a paragraph in my notes about that specific character, so it was very timely.
Wow.
Well, shit. It was weird because I almost didn't ask. I almost just asked about her actual family, and I was like, no, because she'd ask about she'd ask in general.
Yes.
So hey, that's a thing to look forward to and be concerned about. Because I'm concerned. I'm concerned for her in and out of character, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was also nice only understanding a third of the speeches that were going on, but that's fine.
Yeah, that was unfortunate
That's totally
for you.
fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
The amount of times I've spent in bilingual church services where I only understand a third of what's going on.
That is fair.
Ta dyma bacysbryd glan.
Ugh.
If you understand what that means and you post it in the comments, you get brownie points.
We'll give you a gold star.
Ah.
No, you
A
won't.
brave boy sticker.
So, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and I hope you'll join us next time when things might get a little bit more exciting.
Oh no.
Because I have plans.
Plans.
Ooh,
The city will be attacked.
Oh no!
No.
I have to do tower defense.
God damn it.
We're playing an entirely different game.
No, you'll have a different thing to worry about than what you've worried about previously. But
Shit.
it'll be fine.
Oh no, we actually have to act as aristocracy.
Oh shit.
Oh no! We have
What?
to act as
You have to advise a government panel on.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
No.
Fuck.
So
We had a court
I still
session
do-
once.
I'd still do better at that than I did as a lawyer.
yes. So on that bombshell, thanks
That's not
everybody,
actually a bombshell.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.